Zamiria here. Happy New Year everyone. I hope everyone's having a great 2018 so far. Today I'm going to be talking about the formation of the world in my campaign setting and the ancient history of the planes. Before I start though, I wanted to talk about the process that I use for my world's history and mythology. I like things to line up, to have solid facts. But I don't necessarily want those facts to be known to the inhabitants of the world. While I have a set timeline of events and the actual facts worked out, the further back that happened for each culture, the more twisted those facts get. For example, most gods know about the existence of the Overdeities, as would the oldest of the Primordials. Some of the oldest non-deity beings, such as mythical dragons and sphinxes, could also have some knowledge regarding them, but that's not guaranteed to be accurate. Some of the oldest mortal dragons may know fables or myths about them, but most mortals in any era wouldn't know anything about them. Another example would be a theoretical historic event that over time became legend, the specifics of which are different region to region. If you gathered up all of these stories together, you may get a better sense of the true events, but only by seeking out old beings who potentially were even there themselves would you get a more accurate view of the information and you'd see the whole picture. So while in my world building I'll be establishing facts in the world, each different group of individuals will have a different view of these events, beings and cultures. I also do not work within the strict alignment system that D&D uses. I prefer to use alignment as a tool to show how a being or culture is classified to an outsider to the world, to us. So while I might classify a particular being as lawful or evil, it's meant more as a guideline as to how they behave compared to a modern-day Western society. So with that taken care of, let's get started. Like in the Forgotten Realms setting, my setting has a set of Overdeities. In the Forgotten Realms, the deity Ao is used as a mechanism to keep the world in balance, and a point to which all history is unknown and unknowable. Ao is the Dungeon Master's final tool to keep the world from falling apart, and explaining away questions such as, how did the universe come to be, and who made the gods? It is a very convenient mechanism to have, but I do prefer all the levels of my cosmology to consist of multiple beings, so for my Overdeities, there is a trinity. I do like the name Ao, it's nice and simple, so I decided to keep it as one of the three. The other two are Ua and Oi. The Overdeities are vast, unknowable beings, practically unknown to the mortal realm at all. Only the deities, primordials, and outer gods truly know them. The Overdeities keep the true deities in check and balance, but they only care for the big picture. They care nothing at all for mortals, and only large-scale interference by deities will attract their attention at all. Their physical location is in the space outside of the planes. If you can, imagine the planes, regardless of their size, as spheres, with a mist between and around them. This mist has an outer boundary, outside of which there is a black void. That void, to beings who are able to perceive it, is not as inhospitable as it may seem to mortal beings. The Overdeities dwell within this space, as do the outer gods. The most active period of time for the Overdeities was well before any mortals existed. What they did before they began working, and their motives for creating it all, are a mystery. At some point, either before working on the planes or during the process, they created and abandoned a world whose sphere never became part of the collection of the current planes. This world was the birthplace of the Overdeities, who I'll be talking about in a future video. The first definitively known project of the Overdeities in the known planes is the elemental chaos. This plane in modern times seems little more than a vast amount of each element thrown together at random, but it has in fact settled down since its birth. At its birth, no being less powerful than a greater god would have been able to survive within it. And it was within this place that the Overdeities created the first Primordials. These gigantic and powerful beings were not as intelligent as their later descendants, and were quickly abandoned to their own devices. The next attempt of the Overdeities was the outer gods. Here is where I move on to the Cthulhu mythos. A lot of the mythos does need tweaking to fit, but I'll be not tackling it today, and when I do tackle it, I'll have a good friend with me who knows a lot more about the mythos to help me. The Overdeities created Azathoth in an attempt to make a less powerful version of themselves, but with a physical body. But he was a disappointment to them, being born twisted and already mad. Before the next successful attempt, they produced dozens of eggs which contained godlings, most of which crumbled to dust very soon after. But some of these eggs hatched long after the finalized and perfected deities were already being born, and some of those eggs still float around. Perhaps they're dead, but perhaps they're yet to be born. The first true deity born was Io, the dragon god. His egg was hatched within the elemental chaos, and he spent his youth there. The astral planes were later made for him to dwell within, as he did not get along well with his primordial cousin. By the time the next true deity was created, Io had already begun to reproduce and fill out his pantheon. At some point in time, the Overdeities created the other planes, including the material plane. They did not, however, fill it with life, and left that to their children. The last of the first generation deities was born well after the material plane was created, but still well before the mortal races came into being. Since then, the Overdeities have had little to do with the world, other than occasionally stepping in to prevent the deities from destroying everything during large-scale wars. That concludes this brief history of the Overdeities and the early history of the planes. Next time I'll be talking about the Primordials and the elemental chaos and other elemental planes. Before I go, I just wanted to give another shout out to Amara Sesh, who finished 2 new pieces for me between the last video and this one. The cover art for my channel, I'll show it here in full, is amazing. And the second piece is this adorable happy mascot that you've been seeing this whole time. It's so cute and adorable, and you just want to grab its cheeks and squish it. It's so cute. Everyone go give her love. She's amazing, and she's an amazing artist, and she deserves all the love you can give her. Thank you for watching, everyone, and feel free to leave me a comment in the down below. Bye bye.